Football fans, we forget about players all the time without ever really noticing. The NFL is a revolving door of talent, which makes it impossible to remember everyone. So over time, players that weren't the most remarkable start to fade from our memory. We simply don't have the space in our brains to remember every single player, so we save that space for the most extraordinary. But every now and then, a player comes around who is immortalized for the opposite reason. A player who was so bad that we can never forget about them as much as some of us would love to. Today, I want to talk about one of these players. A player that cheated the system that decides who is remembered and forgotten. A player that was so unremarkable that he became remarkable. A player that became immortal. That player is Nathan Peterman. Peterman's claim to fame is that he had the worst first quarterback start in the history of the game. I want to talk about everything surrounding the infamous 5-interception game that turned Peterman from a man to a legend. Why did Peterman get the start to begin with? Was his performance really as bad as we remember? What even happened to him anyways? We're about to find out, so let's get right into it. Since the start of the 2000s, the Buffalo Bills had found themselves at the bottom of the league time and time again, boasting a measly .432 win percentage through 2016 while building one of the worst playoff droughts in football history. But in the 2017 season, the Buffalo Bills got off to a surprising 5-2 start, and immediately there were whispers. Could this finally be the year? Is this where the drought ends? Now, this Bills roster wasn't exactly the type to pop out on paper, but the defense was solid, LaShawn McCoy was there doing his thing, and while the passing game definitely needed work, it wasn't catastrophic, mainly because quarterback Tyrod Taylor simply refused to ever turn the ball over. Winning the division was off the table for this team in an AFC East that was still dominated by Tom Brady, but a wildcard spot was very much in play. But any talk of the playoffs came to a screeching halt in Week 9, when the Bills, fresh off of a loss to the Jets that dropped them to 5-3, hosted the Saints in Buffalo and got absolutely decimated. The final score of that game was 47-10, with Buffalo's only touchdown coming in the last 2 minutes of the game in the form of a 7-yard pass from rookie quarterback Nathan Peterman, who came in relief of Tyrod Taylor earlier in the game. Soon after that game, it would be announced that Peterman would get the start instead of Taylor in the Bills' Week 11 game against the Chargers. This decision shocked many. Yeah, Taylor had a bad game against New Orleans, but the team was in position to end one of the worst playoff droughts in football history. Was this really the right time to test the rookie? Coach Sean McDermott thought so, and apparently he even stood by it after the catastrophe that took place. I guess in his defense, Peterman did look alright when he came into the game against the Saints, but it was garbage time football. There was really no good way to justify this move when it was announced, and what happened that Sunday proved it. Alright, welcome to game day. The Buffalo Bills are visiting the Los Angeles Chargers, and it's time for Nathan Peterman to shine. The Bills win the coin toss and elect to receive, the ball is kicked and returned, and the offense takes the field. Peterman starts off alright, picking up a first down and a total of 23 yards in his first 2 passes. And then it hits the fan. Fast. On pass number 3, Peterman finds Patrick DeMarco on a short route. It hits DeMarco's hands, bounces off, and falls right into the arms of Corey Toomer, who brings it back for a Chargers touchdown. Who's to blame for this interception? It's subjective, I guess. It hit DeMarco's hands, so really he could have caught the ball, but Peterman did throw it pretty damn hard for a short ball that wasn't particularly contested. On top of that, could this bounce have been any unluckier? Like, if it had just hit DeMarco's hands and fallen forward, this video might not even exist right now. So, to me, this first interception is a mix of screw-ups by both Peterman and DeMarco, plus some random bad luck. Peterman didn't have any time to think about it, though, because due to the pick 6, he was already right back on the field. And immediately right back off of it as he throws pick number 2. Now this pick you can only blame on Peterman. The Chargers pass rushers get to him, and instead of dumping the ball or just throwing it out of bounds, he fires away anyways, and hits a wide open Casey Hayward down the middle on a pass that wasn't even close to the intended receiver. The O-line certainly didn't do him any favors here, but Peterman's decision to try and force this throw directly resulted in this pick, his second of the day. Moving on, the Chargers miss a field goal, and the Bills respond with 2 great runs by Shady to get them on the board. Fun fact, this would be the only Bills scoring drive that Peterman would be on the field for during the game, and he didn't even touch the ball. Fast forward to the next Bills drive, and Peterman does it again. He starts with 2 8-yard completions, followed by yet another interception, this time to Trey Boston in the middle of the field. On this pick, he gets absolutely nailed by an LA pass rusher mid-throw, so he really had no control over where this ball was going. But again, while the O-line was no help at all, this interception is the direct result of Peterman's decision to throw anyways. That's interception number 3 for Peterman as the game approaches the end of the first quarter. Yep, there's still plenty more to come. The Chargers find the end zone to start the second quarter, and so the ball makes its way back to Peterman and the Bills' offense. Reinvigorated for the new quarter, Peterman takes the snap, drops back, and fires a short pass to Deontay Thompson on the sideline. Except, it's intercepted by Casey Hayward. This was simply just a beautiful read and play by Hayward, and it brings Peterman's interception total to 4 on the day. It's also worth noting that at this point in the game, Casey Hayward is leading the game in Nate Peterman passes caught with 2, tying him with Charles Clay and putting them ahead of the rest of the Bills' offense. The next couple drives are exactly what you'd expect. The Chargers score, the Bills go 3 and out, the Chargers take a field goal, the Bills go 3 and out again. The Chargers score once again, and now the ball is back in Nathan Peterman's hands as the clock begins to wind down in the first half. He fires one off to Deontay Thompson for a nice 19-yard gain. He tries to hit Thompson deep left again, only this time he sails it well over his head and into the hands of a prepared Trevor Williams. This would be the last time we see Peterman for the rest of the game. The Chargers take the field to finish the half, marking the end of what very well could be the worst first half in football history. The third half begins, the Chargers march down the field and get 3, and then the Bills' offense takes the field. Only this time, Peterman is on the bench. Tyrod Taylor takes the field about an hour later than he should have, and at this point, the game's already over. The Bills are facing a 33-point deficit, not to mention the defense is exhausted after spending the entire first half on the field. Taylor leads a couple of scoring drives and racks up a decent stat line in 2 quarters of football, finishing the day with 15 completions for 158 yards and a touchdown, with a 91.7 quarterback rating. Peterman's stat line? 6 completions, 66 yards, 0 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and a 17.9 quarterback rating. Peterman was able to amass the worst first start in NFL history without even playing the whole game. So, what went wrong? The answer feels pretty simple. The call to start Peterman was unexpected and a blatant overreaction to a bad Taylor performance. Peterman was never ready nor talented enough to take this start. He just shouldn't have been there to begin with. I like to say that it could have been worse, but I don't think it could have been. Anyways, the fallout from this game was pretty minor in the grand scheme of things, but it had the potential to do a lot of damage. For starters, had Taylor just played the whole game, the result could have changed drastically. I know it seems stupid at first glance to say that Tyrod Taylor could have covered a 30-point gap. After all, it's not like he was in control of the defense that let up 54 points, but just hear me out for a second. Exhibit A. In the second half, the Bills matched the Chargers in scoring 17-17. Exhibit B. LaShawn McCoy had a monster game, averaging almost 10 yards per carry. The only problem is, when you're down by such a large deficit, it's hard to give your running back carries. He only got 13 in this one compared to the 20-ish they were giving him on average. Shady was destroying the Chargers' rush defense, and had it made sense to give him more carries, the game already looks a lot different. And Exhibit C. If Peterman isn't there to give up excellent field position 4 times and a free touchdown, the Chargers don't score as much. Plain and simple. And on top of that, the Bills' defense gets more time to rest. Of course, the possibility exists that Taylor plays and they lose just as bad, but I think the points presented here are valid nonetheless. So, what would a win here change anyways? Well, as I mentioned earlier, the Bills were in the hunt to end their 17-year playoff drought, and this loss really put a wrench in those plans. But as we know, the Bills were able to finish strong and finally end the drought. All it took was the help of an unlikely hero. Had the Bills won that game against the Chargers, they would have locked in their playoff berth during their Week 17 bout with the Dolphins instead of having to rely on the results of the Bengals game later that night. In the end, all's well that ends well, and the Bills still ended the drought. On top of that, I got to enjoy my first Bills playoff game after being a fan my whole life. These days, the Bills have had much better quarterback luck with Josh Allen, and Peterman went on to play for the Raiders, and as of a couple days ago, even signed with the Chicago Bears, where he may really have a chance to compete for the backup job. But regardless of what he goes on to do, Nathan Peterman has already accomplished what every athlete hopes to. He's been immortalized, even if he did do it through unconventional methods. As always, if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments, and if you didn't, I guess you can tell me that too. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.